Is there too much complaining in the sports card world nowadays?
I'm irate right now.
Let's discuss.
Stop complaining.
I know it's just a certain shit pisses me off.
Recently, there was a video put out by the Sports Card Dad where he was discussing this idea of kind of a lot of whining that happens in the sports card world nowadays. And I made this video kind of as a response just after watching that video. I don't think I'll touch on every single topic he touched on, but just the basic idea of it has kind of been floating around in my mind ever since I watched that video. I see the reason for this topic because it is, a lot of times it seems like there's a certain level of pettiness in the complaining about certain things in the sports card world. Maybe it's related to you're not getting your value back in the cards that you bought in a box or a pack or whatever, which of course you didn't because that's not how it works. Or maybe you're complaining about, how the secondhand market is working, or how this business is running some little thing that you don't really know much about, but you're complaining about it anyway because it's the thing to complain about things. And I do see that. I think there's some places where there's justification to complain about certain things, but at the same time, I think that the approach in the content world is like armchair critics. It's sitting back, and I don't like armchair critics. It's the same thing you can see about when you look at the world politics. People love to sit back and complain about this side, complain about that side, complain about what this policy, complain about that policy, but don't actually do anything. And I feel like just simply complaining about things, it doesn't do anything. I feel like we need some shift in content creation to recognizing some of these things, but to approach it with a more solutions-oriented mindset, to be thinking, okay, if this is a problem, if instead of complaining about the lack of transparency in repacks, what is the solution? How can you create a set of guidelines for repacks that people should be, abiding by, or should, that show a certain level of transparency? Or whatever it is that you want to complain about. Maybe if the complaint is about breaks and scams happening in breaks, what is the solution to that? Is the solution just simply pointing out all of the bad breakers and then creating an environment of distrust? Or is the solution creating a space of trust? What is that? What does that look like? So I feel like there needs to be this shift from complaining oriented to solutions oriented, because clearly there's a lot of changes that could be made in different spaces in the sports card world, in the world in general, but just sitting back and complaining about the way things are done now without really thinking about what is the steps to go towards a better path has no value, has no purpose. It's just sitting back and spreading cynicism. I remember I said this in past videos, like when I was in college, my bachelor's degree with international affairs. And I remember, when I was a freshman at university, me and all my classmates, the general consensus was everybody was there because they wanted to be able to contribute to building a better world. And so they thought this was a way to learn about what was happening in the world so that they could contribute in some meaningful way. But by junior year, by my third year in college, everybody's mindset had shifted to just being cynical and to just, it's like we had spent the last 3 and then eventually 4 years just learning about all of the bad things that happened in the world and becoming cynical about the affairs of the world, becoming cynical about what's going on, and feeling like there was no way to change it, feeling a sense of purposelessness in the world affairs. And that is absolutely the wrong way of what education should be doing. Education should be sharing with you those realities, yes, so you should be able to see those realities, but if that's as far as it's going, it's missing it. It's completely missing the point. The purpose to learn about all of these negative realities is to be able to think about what could happen to build something that's better, and then to begin to take steps towards that and to learn as you take those steps. If you're missing the action side of it, then the criticism side of it is really very purposeless, I feel, and only builds on a sense of cynicism that creates an environment that nobody wants to do anything, and that where action seems silly almost, or where having a hopeful attitude and a willingness to take action is looked down as like, oh, it's just a stupid person who thinks, they can do something in this crazy world when there's no way you can do anything. It just creates cynicism that creates inactivity. And I don't think that's healthy. So I feel like, this over focus in the content world of just complaining about things, it doesn't help anything. You know, I feel like, yes, it brings some awareness, but where's the other side? How do we take that awareness and turn it into a solution, turn it into an action, turn it into something that we can build over time that eventually solves that problem? You know, I think this is a problem that's not just related to the sports card world, but it's related to a lot of things in the world today. People feel so overwhelmed with all of the negative things happening that it just breeds a sense of cynicism that prevents action from ever happening. So I feel like our role as content creators and as humans involved in this space is to share knowledge, absolutely share knowledge, share things that we need to know in order to avoid scams, share things that we need to know in order to know what businesses are better to support and what businesses are best to avoid because of certain things in their business practice. We need to know all these things, absolutely 100%. But then at the same time, if this is a reality, what is something that we can do to do a solution? I mean, maybe on the one hand, if it is, you know, avoiding certain companies, it's, you know, making effort to support other companies that are doing things with a better approach, that are doing things with more, you know, integrity in their actions. Or if it is scamming, like what is the way to stop that scammer, but also to create an environment where that scamming is not the go-to, where it's hard for that scammer to even get business because there's so many real legit places where you can engage in the hobby in the same kind of way, that there'd be no reason to shift into the scamming space because all of these spaces over here are so trustworthy. How do you build that? You know, so I think that rather than just whining, I think you can complain about things. Complaining about things is fine. I complain about things all the time. If you ask my wife, I complain about things too much. But at the same time, if that's all you're doing and you're never leading that conversation towards ideas or exploration of solutions, then what are you really doing? What's your purpose there? So I feel like this is a shift that needs to happen in general, is starting to think a little bit more in a solutions-oriented mindset. Anyway, that's my thoughts about all this. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.